Hello, this is Rachel from 7 and All, and in today's video, I'm going to be sharing about our family's summer homeschool plans. I actually have some pretty exciting homeschool plans for this summer. If you know our family, if you've been watching this channel, you know that my husband and I are raising our boys in Southeast Asia, but we are from the USA originally. And this summer, when my husband has his break from school, he is a high school teacher, we are actually going to be traveling back to the USA to spend time with our family, visit family, show our boys around. And we are so excited about that. That's not something that we get to do very often. This will have been 3 years since our family's most recent trip back to the USA. So our boys will be a lot bigger. Last time they were in America, they were 4 and 2, and the youngest one wasn't born yet. Now they're going to be 7 and 5 and 1 year old. So this will be a chance for our youngest to meet a lot of his extended family for the very first time, and for our older boys to play with their cousins, with their abuelos, with their aunts and uncles, and really experience a lot of what they can't really remember from when they were much younger. So that is my family's big news. We're going to be going to the US, spending about 6 weeks there this summer. So when I say the US, for us, that means we're going to be in Texas and in Michigan, kind of splitting our time between those two states and traveling from one to the other. So we'll get to see a few things in between those two states as well. And just to share a little bit of our plans and some things that I'm really hoping that the boys get to experience. So when we do this, we do really want to kind of make the most of experiences that they can't have, that aren't really a part of our everyday life here in the rainforest, in a tropical island. So one thing I'm really looking forward to is blueberry picking. I know that the timing on when blueberries are ripe can vary a little bit from year to year, so I'm hoping we hit the timing just right, but I'd love to be able to take them blueberry picking at a U-Pick orchard over in Michigan. My sister and brother-in-law also have a small farm that they run, and they sell their vegetables at a farmer's market. So my son is really looking forward to working on his uncle and aunt's farm, and we'll just put him to work weeding and harvesting vegetables, and he'll get to have all of that experience of vegetable farm work. I come from a family with a lot of small-time farmer roots, so that is something that is very special to me for him to get to experience, for them to experience, especially because here we really live in a cityfied area. We don't really get to see farming and gardening all that much. My boys really want to spend some time camping, spend a lot of time outdoors. My son actually really wants to go to the Bighorn Mountains, which, if you know US geography, the Bighorn Mountains are not anywhere in between Texas and Michigan, and in reality there aren't any mountains in between Texas and Michigan. But if you have good recommendations on great wildernessy places to go and explore, favorite state parks between southern Michigan and Dallas-Fort Worth area, let me know, because I'm definitely open to suggestions. They love to spend time in the outdoors. I'm excited to get them out and around, different kinds of plants and different kind of scenery than what they usually get here. We don't have seasons here, and then we're going back in the summer. So it's still gonna all be a hot, summery feeling type of season, but there's a lot more variety and just different things for them to experience. I'm hoping to take them to one of those historical villages. In Michigan, we have Greenfield Village or Crossroads Village. There's a log cabin village in Fort Worth. So one of those kind of like historical, how people lived long ago type of living history museums would be really fun. Another thing I love to do when we visit the US is to actually visit public libraries, because we don't get to go to a public library here. And I don't know if this is going to be possible, because I don't know how difficult it would be to have a family member with a library card or something, but I think it'd be really fun to have my oldest do a summer library reading program if we're in one place for a couple of weeks, because I used to love those as a kid, and I think he has definitely the personality that would love reading for prizes and marking off your progress on a chart. I don't know how possible that will be, but that's something that I will look into, seeing if he can be a part of during our short stay in the US. We will also definitely be driving tractors around, experiencing, you know, all the old John Deere and Ford tractors on my family's farmland in Michigan. And in Texas, what will be really awesome is the boys will have an extended amount of time to spend time with their abuelos and to spend time in a more Spanish-speaking environment. And really make those connections, and also language connections, getting to practice and hear a lot of Spanish and hopefully use a lot of Spanish during our time in Texas. For myself, while we're in the US, I'm also looking forward to thrift store shopping, which I know probably does not sound incredibly thrilling or exciting, but we don't really have thrift stores where we live here at all. They're not really as much of a concept. And so I really appreciate thrift stores when we go to the US, especially for kids' clothes and kids' books, of course, as well, because, you know, you can get some really good prices and really good deals sometimes, not all the time, but, you know, hey, it's fun. It's an adventure. You don't know what's going to be there. So I do look forward to that. And because we're going there and we're coming back with a bunch of suitcases, this is also a good time for me to be stocking up on homeschool resources and supplies, on books that I wouldn't normally be able to get. So that is something that I'm still in the process of researching and planning and trying to make decisions on what I need to prioritize getting. And I'm realizing this is a little bit challenging because I'm looking at my oldest going into second grade, third grade, fourth grade, you know, the next couple years that are coming up before we would be going back to the US, because we won't be going back for several years. What subjects do I need? What Spanish resources, reading resources do I need? Now that he's in elementary school and kind of progressing faster, grasping materials more quickly and content and growing in his skills, what do I need next? And I'm still processing, trying to make the right purchasing decisions, figuring out what curriculum to prioritize, because yes, we have a good amount of suitcase space, but we don't have unlimited suitcase space. We don't have unlimited shopping potential, so I do need to narrow down to what resources will be needed for sure within the next couple of years. So I don't want to buy too much in advance, but I also don't want to buy too little and then find myself 2 years from now wishing, oh man, I'm out of this subject material for this kid. What am I going to do? Plus, I also have a kindergartner and then the little guy coming up, which I don't need as much for them because I do have more materials in the younger years. But figuring out what exactly I need to be shopping for is a work in progress. Now, as far as actual homeschool during the 6 weeks of travel, 6 weeks of summer, obviously this is going to be a fantastic opportunity to be learning from real life, to be speaking Spanish with your abuelos, to be going to history museums, getting to visit different libraries, and just experiencing a different part of the world that is more unfamiliar to them. There's so much educational value in that alone. However, I am going to be bringing along just this. This is what I'm going to be bringing along. I'm going to be bringing along the K Top Student Workbook for my little guy, and my oldest son did this exact workbook before from Evan Moore, so I knew that I liked this one. I knew it was a pretty solid one with quite a few different subjects in one workbook, which means we can do a couple pages just from different sections in one day to cover several different skills. And this is because, especially for my younger son, I don't think that taking 6 weeks off of his math and 6 weeks off of his reading would do him any favors right now. He's at a point where he has been making progress, but I definitely feel like if we take that long of a break, his progress is a little bit at a more fragile stage that he probably would lose some of the skills and the fluency that he has gained. I think we would lose it, and we just don't want to lose it. So I am gonna just pack along this one workbook, and we can work through this, and also I can, just write words on a piece of notebook paper if we want to keep practicing with certain words or certain blends. And that's just my plan, a really simple way to just keep working on math, keep working on your writing and reading, these basic skills, just the skills that I don't want him to go backwards on during the summer. Then for my oldest, I just got the exact same Top Student Grade 2 workbook for him, and he is going into second grade. Now, I will be completely honest that I actually think that he would be a lot more fine with the 6-week break. I don't really foresee that he would forget what he knows, because he's just not in as challenging of a stage for him right now. In all honesty, a lot of the schoolwork that he's been doing has been pretty easy for him lately, because I've been thinking, well, some of these new and challenging things I don't want to start until after our summer break. So he has been kind of coasting a bit, and like the math in this book is going to be super easy for him. Some of the reading and writing will give him a little bit more of a challenge as I look through this. So just to show you that they have a bunch of different sections. They have phonics, handwriting, they have some grammar and punctuation, spelling, which is kind of word work, just looking at different letter combos, putting different pieces together to make words. They have math, science, STEM, which those are largely reading passages and writing about different little reading passages, which will be great. You know, it won't hurt him at all to also have that just continued practice on reading throughout the summer. It's definitely a good thing for him as well, but it's not as much that I'm worried that he'll go backwards. It's more that if this one has to do school, his brother also has to do school, because otherwise he will be stressed. And this one, my oldest will just crank it out, piece of cake, no problem. But I do know that if the little guy was doing school, he would feel sad if his brother wasn't doing school too. So this is just a little bit of a parenting strategy that, hey, you guys are both gonna do your schoolwork, even though maybe one of you is the one who more needs the continued practice and needs to be really consistent to not lose progress. But both of you will benefit from this. And you might be thinking, well, how are you gonna do this in the midst of traveling? What I know from previous experience with kind of long-term travel with small children is that there is always going to be downtime. I have very energetic children who will be waking up before anyone else, who will be ready to go, who will be very high energy and needing something to do even in the middle of a very hot day in Texas. You know, Texas summers are brutally hot. We're probably not going to be going outside to play in the middle of the day. We'll need something to do. And they don't have any of their toys. They don't have any of their stuff. We don't have our own space. So actually, you know, sitting down for 20 minutes, half an hour even, to, hey, let's just work on this together, have some calm and peace and kind of semi-familiar routines of just learning with mama, even in the midst of all the rest of life being very different, staying in different houses, doing many, many different things, I think is helpful for us, for our family dynamic. It is helpful to kind of have that time to, okay, we're gonna be calm, sit at a table, focus our brains, practice a little bit, connect over our schoolwork time, and then we'll get to move on into the next activities. So I am not at all worried about not having time to sit down and work. On our last trip, my oldest was 4, and we did have very consistent, we're gonna sit down with mama, we'll practice your reading, practice your math, and that was a good thing for us that year. So this is something I'm going to be continuing, and we'll just keep it simple. These are just taking one workbook along with us is pretty easy and compact way to practice those core subjects, math, handwriting, reading, and then we just get to move on into the rest of our real life adventures. So those are my summer plans. We are very excited. I still feel like I have quite a bit of work to do to prepare. And if you have any places that you're like, you should definitely go here, feel free to message me, DM me, email me, or just leave a comment down below if you want to leave a suggestion of, hey, there's this awesome place. Our list is gradually growing of places we want to go to and just take advantage of being in the US for the first time in several years, getting to take our growing boys on many adventures and just enjoy the scenery. I am very happy to be going home to Michigan and getting to see my extended family, really spend time connecting with them and having them get to know the boys and my boys get to know them. So those are our exciting summer plans. Let me know down in the comments below, what are your summer plans? Do you have any trips planned? Are you going to be continuing with schoolwork? What does it look like for you? Because every summer is going to be a little bit different. All right, I'll be seeing you next time. Bye.